Now we're going to go over the obedience stay. What I'm going to do is just read this pretty much word for word, what I have on the board. If you can see it, and it's big enough, you guys can copy it down off of this. But this is the general rule of how I teach it. Of course, there's always exceptions to the rules with certain dogs. But most of the dogs will learn it from doing it this way. So what I do for the obedience stay is a couple things I want to point out to you. You will always return to your dog around the dog's left side back to the heel position. So if this is you and you're coming towards your dog, you're always going to go. This is actually a picture of a dog, believe it or not. So you're going to always go back to your dog, and you will always go around its left side, back behind its butt, and back to the heel position, always. And then you'll either say heel back from there, or the judge will say exercise complete, and you're done. But remember, when your judge says return to your dog, you will always go around it and back to the heel position. You don't ever just go back up to it and come over to here. You guys got to go around it. So also another thing too, when you're teaching a stay to your dog, and I don't have it on here, but if you want your dog to stay, step off with the right foot. It's very important, because we've already went over anytime you want your dog to go with you, step off with your left leg. Your dog will start cueing on that left leg for the heel. If you want your dog to stay, you always start off with your right foot. It's another clue to the dog that it's another command, and the dog knows that he's not going to go with you because you started off with that right foot. Okay, so to teach your dog to stay first, you're going to start with your dog sitting in front of you. When you ask that dog to sit in front of you, do not give him a treat for sitting, because if you give him a treat for sitting after you ask him to sit, they're thinking they're done. So we're going to turn it into a chain. That's what's called a chain, which is more than one command. So you're going to ask your dog to sit. You're not going to give him a treat. You're going to tell your dog to stay without food in your hand. And how I do it is I put my palm out and I say stay. And this depends on your dog. You're going to progress slowly. You're going to add movement to it. Some dogs, my movement is just this. And then I say good stay and give them the food. Some dogs I can get back further, maybe a half a step like this, and go back to him and give him food. It's all going to depend on your dog. So you're going to tell the dog to stay without food in your hand, and you're going to progress slowly. Here you're going to go, then you're going to go back to your dog. You're going to pause, just a brief pause, tell him good stay, and give him a treat. Make sure the dog is still sitting when you're giving him a treat. Don't give him a treat for getting up. Make sure if he does get up, you tell him sit again when you get back to him and get him to sit back down. So if that said that, if your dog gets up, tell him he did something wrong. So give your dog a clue that he's doing something wrong. I do it. There's nothing wrong with it. If your dog gets up from that sit, no, sit. So get him to sit back down and start over. So you just go back to him, put him back exact same place where he was, tell him sit, stay, and then lower your criteria a little bit. So if your dog got up with you moving back maybe 2 steps, go back to only moving 1 step, or go back to moving just a shoulder roll and start over. Get successful, then start building up on that. Don't ask for too much at once. That's the biggest thing I see people do, is they try to ask their dog too many things at once, or too much duration or distance at one time. Start off little baby steps and then work up to it. The dog will be more successful. The dog to stay while walking around you. This is the hardest part, because you're always going to have to walk around your dog to get back to him. So what I do is I just put food in my fist. I start from the front position. I walk around with my with that food in my left hand, and what I do is I cup it right under their chin, and I hold it there, and I have to stretch my arm out a little bit to get all the way around them and back to them, and then I'll release that food to them when they're still seated, and I get all the way around them. So I'll give the food to the dog only when I get all the way around them. Until then, it's in my fist. So I'll show you through how I start with the beginner dogs. And if you guys are in your garage or a contained yard or something, you don't have to have a leash. It's actually easier to train without a leash. But your dog will have to get familiar with that leash on at some point. So you can start it without a leash. Make sure you're in an enclosed area that your dog's not going to get loose. And then once your dog kind of gets used to it, then go ahead and start putting that leash on, but making sure you're practicing with that leash. So, Ruth, come. So how I'm going to do it is I'm going to tell her sit, sit, stay. Good stay. Good stay. Now some of you guys might just do a shoulder roll. So stay. Good stay. Now to get around them, different story. So here, sit. I'm going to put food in my left hand. I'm going to go around the back of them like I would on a normal dog, or to get back to them. So I'm going to say stay. Yes, good girl. What a good girl. So I'm going to do it again. Stay. Yes, good girl. Okay. Some of the dogs that get anxious about you going around their backs like that, you might have to start trying to just feed them. Stay. The side, like this. And then stay. Maybe from behind them. Stay. That, and then getting used to just getting food while they're staying seated no matter what position you're in. So hopefully that helps. If you have any questions, let me know. Stay. It's going to be one of the hardest things to learn with your dog. Again, getting used to you guys doing it without leash in an enclosed area, and then start doing it with that leash, because your dog needs to know what that leash is going to be doing when you're going back to your dog.